we're looking at Diamond and also at Willow. It provides a shorter walking distance in between, so it's less attractive to cross Bid Block without the protection of the signal. So with that, I think I'll turn it back. We'll take questions. I'm not sure if anyone else needs to.
Yeah, so I guess if we could turn on the lights so that we can encourage, I don't know who's controlling the lights, but if we can encourage people just to come and look at closely at these boards. And also we can take some questions now. Yes, Ms. Loss. Yes, thank you. Good evening.
Does this study allow for any adjustments as time goes on?
Absolutely, yes. For example, initially they proposed several ideas, and we spoke to several of the residents of the community. For example, at Harriet and Dutch Broadway, right across from the Dunkin' Donuts, they were proposing initially a no left turn, and after discussion, they reconsidered that. Absolutely, that's what we're here today. We want to hear from the community. This is not a fixed plan, take it or leave it, not at all. I truly value your input, you especially being very active in the lives of our children. You know about the behaviors of many parents. Even though there's a no U-turn sign in front of Dutch Broadway, they make that U-turn. My assistant observed a family of 3, walking across the street, not at the crosswalk, and it takes education. And so this is not a firm, fixed plan. We're open to improving this plan and making it work. I've also discussed with Mr. Jaime and several other members of the community the possibility of speed cameras. As you may recall, several years ago, the past county executive proposed speed cameras, and in my opinion, there wasn't enough time to vet the program, and the presentation wasn't done correctly. It was more sort of a money trap. It wasn't based on safety. I would like to join the county executive, as well as attorneys from the county executive's office and engineers with the members of the school board to discuss the possibility. As you may recall, early in her term, the new county executive stated that she wanted to have the school districts consider these plans in the first place. That meant to provide more safety in front of schools. And so, honestly, I would like to consider all options on the table in order to make our roads safer. And so, Mr. Jaime and I, will be meeting with the county executive on that plan, and you're welcome as well to join that. But to answer your question, we're open to feedback. Yes, ma'am.
As a person who lives directly on Dutch Broadway for 40 years, where the accidents happen just a little bit before my house and just a little bit after my house, it's not always speeding. There's something about the way the road sits that it's bizarre. And the last major accident, the lady was texting and went into the westbound lane, hit 2 cars and flipped over. How do we get people to adhere to the rules? That's the difficulty. And then, I know you did your study from 7:15 to 8:15, but come 8:30, it's like a parking lot heading west.
Actually, ma'am, we actually looked at, I forget the 7 in the morning to 9 in the morning. We did cover that period.
Oh, well, one of your charts said
well, that was
8:15.
hour. Right, that was the highest hour.
Okay, so how do we stop that parking lot once we kind of lose that second lane where people can go by? What happens is they're waiting for the light to turn to the left, so all the cars back up right to my house. The rest of the cars on
To make a
the
left where
northern lane.
Platform?
No, they're making a left. All the cars are waiting all the way down to Dutch Broadway. They're waiting to make the left onto Elmont Road. So the other cars are passing on the right-hand side, but the rest of the traffic, and it's bizarre. It's like, why is there a parking lot right up to my house? From 8:30 to 9.
Maybe we can look at it on the plan so we can understand better.
Okay.
That's a great question, and we're going to definitely follow up with that. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay, I noticed that most of your studies started on 238th Street. I live on Broadway Drive 2 blocks over. The next thing is the Cross Island Parkway. Broadway Drive turns into, they think it's a service road. And when the traffic backs up on the Cross Island, They're on the Parkway Drive, making it a one-way street going north. I don't know what happens once they get to Dutch Broadway. You know, if Waze is telling them to go around to the service road on the other side that will take you up to Hempstead Turnpike. Or if it sends you through the back streets to get to Hempstead Turnpike.
Parkway Drive is I'm sorry, yes ma'am, I'm sorry.
I just want to know, we've been asking for a speed bump. We've asked maybe if you could maybe turn it into a one-way street. Have it turned it into one-way between Linden Boulevard and 116th Avenue. That area, that's one way going north. So you can either get on Parkway or keep going down Parkway Drive. Now, maybe we should stop it and let the traffic come up this way so they can't go down this way, think it's a highway. They race down this block. The police officers sit at 115th Road or whatever street it is. When they go through that stop sign, they can get tickets all day long right there. Because they know people pass that stop sign. Because they don't think anybody's, around.
Yeah, Parkway Drive then is a town road, and I'm very glad we have a representative here from the town. I have written several correspondences to the past supervisor, and I will continue, and I look forward to having a meeting in which we discuss that road, 237, 240th, all the same problem. People are speeding excessively at unreasonably high rates through those streets to get a shortcut between Dutch Broadway and Linden, and it's unacceptable. And those streets are very narrow and tight. So I look forward to having a meeting with our town officials to address that issue specifically. A month ago when I was driving on your road, I stopped and pulled over and I said hello to you and I asked you how you're doing and asked you some questions about the fence. We will follow up, ma'am, and I really appreciate those suggestions and those points are noted. You mentioned something that I didn't say, Harold. What did you mention again? I forgot you said a key word. Yeah. Okay, all right. Yes, the next question is back. Start with the hat. Thank you.
Yes, part of my voice. I worked for DOT for 32 years. I looked at the pre-action course that you had in regards to traffic congestion. You have a post-action in regards to dealing with the traffic. The reason I'm saying that a lot of the streets are major arteries for vehicles go in and out of Elmont. And when I say that, is if an accident happened with the more congestion with traffic, that's going to be a delayed time for an ambulance to get to the hospital. And those arteries are key when it comes to ambulance, fire truck, as well as the police. So will there be a post-action evaluation in regards to the traffic? That's my question.
Good question.
What we can do once, assuming we're moving forward with the lane diet, we would look at travel speeds throughout the corridor. We have travel speeds currently now in terms of what we're doing for travel time throughout the corridor for north-south and east-west through the corridor. You would look to do the same thing once the project is initiated. During an accident condition, obviously you're going to reduce capacity no matter what the roadway conditions are, 2 lanes, 1 lane each direction. So that's something that a lane diet does do. It induces delay. It is going to slow things down. But what we do when we model this lane diet, we're not striving to grind traffic to a halt. We still need to improve the signal timings here to improve the coordination so that it functions with 1 lane in each direction. We're removing all the left turning traffic out of the current left lane that's there now, moving it into an exclusive left turn lane so that you have full capacity of that lane that's there instead of you're really losing a half to a quarter of a lane depending on the time of day. During the peak hours, you have a lot more movements, a lot more left turning vehicles in and out and off and on that roadway. By putting them into a left turn lane, you're going to achieve reduction in the amount of left turns in there, and you're going to be able to improve some of the flow of traffic. But we're still, the objective here is to slow traffic down. That's one of the issues that we've had here in terms of a lot of the accidents that we've had.
I appreciate your professional opinion in working with the DOT, but specifically, we have individuals here from the Nassau County Police Department, and we are looking forward to making this presentation before our fire department and emergency services to make sure that they understand this project and can get their feedback as well regarding this project. So I appreciate that question. It's a great question. Yes, ma'am, Brown Jacket.
Two quick questions. One, how the post office on Elmont Road, I know that there's been a change where you have something that was like how fast you're going. During your study, did you find that it might just be best to put a traffic light there because it still seems as though, even though there's something telling you how fast you're going, I don't necessarily feel like people slow down, or instead of light, maybe camera to track you how fast you're going. My second question is, there was an accident that occurred here by the school, it was on the news, very recent, at last year, and then after that accident, there was a very bright light that was put up, a sign that says, please reduce your speed. Although it wasn't visually appealing, it did bring a lot of attention, and I thought people were really aware. During this study, are you guys going to put any lights up? Do you find that maybe it would be best to put some more lighting or any other signage to draw attention?
Great question. Great, two questions. Initially, your first question regarding the post office. You see now there are two speed indicator signs heading north and south. We lobbied and the county executive for that, petitioned to her, and she was able to, the county executive, the administrator were able to implement those speed signs. We had initially requested a light. I believe, I agree with you. I think that a light is more appropriate. I will have the expert here, provide an answer as to why they didn't provide the alternative. Second question that you mentioned, I absolutely agree with you. In fact, Principal Doherty was here before, asked what happened to those lights, especially at Ridge Road and Dutch Broadway. What happened to those lights? The signs that say slow down are still there, but the lights are not there. I'm going to ask the county executive and the police department, no, of course, the commissioner here tonight, to have maybe temporary lights there and during our study and during the project to include more lighting, because that's an issue as well. And I appreciate that. And even on certain town roads, I know, for example, on Bower Court, a town has been very helpful recently with the help of Councilman Mascarella in getting more lights for that intersection on town roads. And so that's a great question. I'm glad you answered that. And I'm going to have an expert answer that question as well.
Thank you. As far as the post office, we have looked at in years past for a traffic signal in the post office. The issue with the traffic signal, it's not to control speed, it provides access. What we felt, what we wanted to do through that area is remind drivers north and south in multiple locations along there what their speed was. As part of the study, what we did do is we did look at the overall pedestrian accidents. We don't have an accident history at the crosswalk for that location, so at this time right now, we're not considering anything additional into that location. We do have the overhead pedestrian warning signs at that crosswalk as well.
Broadway, after the accident last year, they put more lighting. Is there any intention to increase lighting on
We would have to speak with our Office of Emergency Management. I believe it was between them and the police department where that lighting was deployed. The overall lighting along the roadway, it would be under the jurisdiction of the local municipality, in this case, the town of Hempstead. We could ask, the legislator can ask that they review the lighting along the roadway to see that we're meeting lighting standards, and that we have that. As far as us, we're looking at the signage and the markings and the things that we can control along the roadway. We're more than happy to ask that for all.
Thank you. Thank you. We have other questions. Yes, Ms. Capers.
So I attended the meeting last year in November, and one of the takeaways from that meeting was that the drivers reduced their speed for Dutch Broadway, and then they don't realize that they're entering another school zone for the high school. So they speed up, and then they're not able to slow down again once they enter the high school zone. So one of the items was that you were going to look to getting the 20 is Plenty campaign and reducing the speed to 20 between Keegan and Elmont Road, so they wouldn't speed up. I know that there was a press conference on that. I thought that was a done deal. It seems like we don't have the signs there along that way still say 30, but now we're moving straight to a lane diet, where I don't really feel that we've exhausted the other options. And like you said, that the intent is to reduce the speed. Why are we not trying that? Because we never got to that point, and we're going right into removing the lane, or the lane diet. But with the same expectation to reduce the speed?
It's a great question, but, you know, I've spoken to, for example, Farida Khan, who lives at 222 Dutch Broadway, right where we did that 20s Plenty campaign to reduce. And even though we reduced the speed limit on that roadway, there still is unfortunately excessive speeding on that
But I don't
roadway.
see that we did, because we still have the sign that is 30. We never implemented that, and now it seems like we are moving as if we tried that and it didn't work.
Oh, I beg to differ. I think that when we put appropriate signage on Dutch Broadway, at Ridge Road, near between Dutch Broadway and Elmont Road, at Queens Border, that's say 20 miles per hour.
Well, it was
No, no,
between
no.
Keegan, it was when you leave the school zone for Dutch Broadway Elementary. It's at the intersection of Keegan and Dutch Broadway. And then before you get to Elmont Road, there is a strip of 3 blocks there that you all had proposed to keep that at 20. So it wouldn't go 20, 30, and then 20 again.
Understood. So you're looking for more consistency before we have other alternatives.
Well, I'm looking for you to exhaust the other options that you proposed to us before you take away a lane. I don't know that I don't know that I agree that that's going to help with the speed. I think it's going to cause more congestion.
I respect your opinion, and I would definitely speak with my colleagues and see if we can make it more consistent on that roadway. If it's 20, 30, 20, that's a problem. And so I appreciate that.
But we addressed
Definitely look
that
into
at the last meeting.
Yes, yes, sir.
I understand what the request is. We are restricted by New York State law and the vehicle traffic law in terms of where the confines of the school zone can be established. When we're beyond the limits of the schools, we can't establish a school zone in between those two sections. That's why the schools, while they're close in proximity, they're not close enough that the school zones would overlap and we would have one long continuous school zone. We're not permitted to do that. But what we are doing, and we didn't show it in this presentation, but we're showing it along in the boards, we are looking to put additional electronic speed awareness devices in that section of roadway to remind the drivers of the speed limit of 30 in that section. You know, if you all the speeds in here, the average travel speed with the 85th percentile speed was 10 to 13 miles an hour above the 30 mile an hour speed limit. We're looking to get compliance with 30 and obviously 20 during the school zone. The other issue is the school zone doesn't run continuously through the night. You know, it's a 7 a.m., 6 p.m. So we have a limit to that. We're here, the lane diet itself, it's there all the time. It's you know, it is constantly working to help us reduce travel speeds through that area. But what we're not looking to grind into the hole so that we're pushing people off the roadway. We just want to control the drivers that are utilizing the roadway and using it as, you know, wherever you need to go. One other issue, I'm sorry, I didn't finish addressing your question earlier with emergency vehicles and the two-way left turn lane. That can also be utilized for emergency vehicles to drive so that they can pass vehicles that are queued up at lights or wherever they can be. So it does provide that additional capacity and that space when available.
Yes, thank you. Yes, we have a question from here. I think, yes, Mr. B. Dr. B, yes, sir.
By the way, where do we, who do we contact if we have other ideas for you to implement, or some of those ideas I saw on the screen, I think is overkill, like the left turn on School Street from going, I guess, southbound on Elmont Road. I think that's a waste of time. May not be necessary, a left turn off of that. You know what I'm talking about? Okay.
Understood. You're welcome to reach out to me, and also I can provide contact information for, I guess, for Mike.
We can pass along.
Yes, I would go through you for this study. I would suggest that for the study and comments on the study, go through the legislator's office.
Okay.
We'll consolidate that. We're going to add these into the report to go through the suggestions and take it that way. If you have any general concern with traffic, you can contact the department directly, and I'd be happy to give you my information after the presentation.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. In front. Yes, sir.
How you doing? Good night. Just want to ask you, regarding the lane diet, have you guys considered just having it for a certain time period?
At this point, no, because what we're seeing, the pedestrian accidents and the speeding issue from some of the previous public meetings we've had, speeding in cars day and night. It's at different times of the day, and it's different behavior. Some of it is extremely excessive speed late at night. Some of it is just average higher speeds during the peak hours and the in-between peak hours in the middle of the day or early morning. To put something like that is very difficult to control the parking situation that you would have, and I don't think it would lend itself really to being accepted. I think it would create more of a nuisance than it would an overall. We don't have the ability to make convertible lanes really on a roadway like that.
Yes, President of the School Board, Mr. Jaime. Thank you, yes, sir.
So a couple of points. In terms of, there was a question back on Parkway Drive and Dutch Broadway. So I witness this almost daily. A lot of that traffic that's coming off to make the left-hand turn onto Dutch Broadway heading into Queens, a lot of times blocks the eastbound traffic and the westbound traffic. And we have a lot of folks that are cutting people off in that right turn lane only to make that right turn onto the Cross Island Parkway Service Road. So I would agree with the lady in the back that said make it a one-way in the opposite direction to support that congestion. One of the reasons why the lane diet works as you cross into Queens is because it's mostly residential. I think what we need to consider in this area is that we have 4 schools where we have a number of employees that are getting off the Cross Island Parkway in the Southern State and commuting into this area and crisscrossing the area. We have trucks that are crossing from Hempstead Turnpike through to Sunrise Highway that are attributing to a lot of the congestion. And the lane diet, I'm still not convinced that that's going to slow down traffic, and that's why I will be contacting the county executive in regards to the speed cameras. I would say in terms of the parking on Dutch Broadway, we have a lot of people that are parking on the sidewalks and taking up valuable space for our walkers, and I haven't really heard that addressed where the sidewalks are going to be expanded so that there's more capacity and there's more of a barrier between the roadway and the scholars walking back and forth to school. My third point is there is a right-left turn portion on Elmont Road between the post office, between the post office and the end of the park. And I see a lot of people using that lane to pass traffic because people are driving slower and they are impatient. So I think creating a left-right lane in the center of Dutch Broadway will only facilitate people doing that and causing just as many accidents for the drivers that are following the slower pace on Dutch Broadway.
Just to be clear, there's no road diet plan with respect to Elmont Road.
No, I'm saying there's a center median where people can turn left or right, either into the commercial properties on either side of Elmont, and I see people traveling in that lane to pass slower traffic.
Part of what we're here tonight is it's the engineering facet of it. We have law enforcement here tonight, and there's also the education component where we talk to the people using the roadway and that's part of what we have to do, and part of what the legislator has been trying to do with us is that we need the 3 E's of traffic engineering for this to work. There's no doubt in my mind that there are people who are going to break the law regardless of what we do. But the greater the enforcement, the lane diet itself, again, when we're designing this, we're not designing this to cripple traffic. The lane diet itself, it was a little difficult to follow through the presentation in terms of the exact limit of the lane diet, but in certain areas it is open in that area for accessing Ridge Lane. It is going to be, there will be delay, there will be some slower speeds as a result of this, but overall we're not looking to create chaos. We don't want the unintended consequences of doing that, and when we run the traffic model, when you visualize the model and you see it, and I think maybe that's something that we need to do is possibly set that up so you can see the model run itself and just see how that roadway geometry handles the existing volumes, plus the volumes we anticipated from Elmont, plus the volume we anticipate from the background growth for over the next 10 years.
So my last question is, as part of your study, did you contact law enforcement to see how many tickets were written for traffic violations on each of these corridors?
At the past meetings, we had law enforcement present and provide that information. law enforcement isn't here tonight, then I ask them to provide that information tonight, but in subsequent meetings, and when I do, if everyone who signed in, I will email the presentation to them. I'm looking forward also to sharing that information with respect to, how many summons were issued. I know that, after those terrible accidents that occurred in the past, law enforcement, they were very diligent, very professional. They issued, very high number of summons to individuals crossing Dutch Broadway and Elmont Road, and unfortunately, still the problem persists. But I would like, to present to you the actual, model and formula and paradigm that they use, so that you can see that this, causes people to slow down but not to stop. If a car is traveling at 40 miles per hour and the car behind it is traveling at 60, the one traveling at 60 is going to be forced to slow down to 30, hopefully. And so I 100% understand and appreciate the distinction that you made between the green side of the road that has a lane guide and speed cameras and this side. Now, that area is more residential and this is more commercial. Of course, I can point you to how there's a higher density there in New York City than here, but nevertheless, we're not comparing apples and oranges here. We want to make sure that this specific project is successful in this area. And, I've admitted, publicly when I'm wrong, that we could change things. And so, again, this is not a fixed plan. We're looking to make it work. As he said, as Mr. Lutt said, there's some areas that there are 2 lanes, some areas that there are only 1 lane. And they did that based on a very strict formula and studying it, those particular points in the roadway at different times of the day and the year. Yes, sir.
I was just going to say to follow up to your comments. Keep in mind that you're trying to address primarily a speeding issue along with some other issues. And what we're proposing tonight, there are many pieces to this puzzle. It's not just the road diet, it's everything else that's going along with it in terms of the traffic signals that we're proposing, the speed awareness devices that we're talking about, modifying existing signals to bring them more up to date, more pedestrian friendly, to provide additional time for the pedestrians. I know there's always some fear about these road diets, but the analysis that they did showed that with the volumes that you have, they will work. And the issues, for example, that you brought up with the 2-way left turn lane, I was around when we first put these in for the very first time in Nassau County. And there was fear about how they would operate, whether you have accidents with cars, basically in both directions, because they're designed to provide turning ability for people that have commercial buildings or residences along the roadway. And has not been my experience that people have used them basically to get around other people because they're moving too slow. Keep in mind, what you have right now, you have 2 lanes in each direction. And as was mentioned here, you don't really have 2 full lanes because of someone that wants to make a turn into a commercial establishment or a side street or whatever the case may be. It takes away a lot of the capacity of that lane. And I would venture to say that when you pull up behind someone, for example, that's in the left through lane right now that wants to make a turn into a side street or a property, and you pull around to the right of him, pulling out of your lane into someone else's lane is probably more of a hazard, and the potential is certainly greater for that to happen than for someone to try to pass somebody on the left going through the 2-way left turn lane that we're proposing. So I'll repeat again, there are a lot of pieces to this puzzle, but I think the overall benefits that you're going to get out of this project is going to make both Dutch Broadway and Elmont a much safer road, not only for the motorists, but primarily for a lot of the pedestrians that are utilizing these 2 roadways.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We have another question? Yes, ma'am, right there with Trigger. Yes, free to come, yes.
Hi. What I want to ask is a question. The song, when you come from west, from Queen, the song is right there, the entrance there. My thing is the turning, when you're turning to go into the song, they right at the corner there, my driveway is there. And when I'm trying to come in there is like the speed that they're coming, it's crazy because many times I'm being honked at and crazy. Once, but my place was the one that you guys used, for example. where they jump over my pond and hit my platform or whatnot. But what I'm getting at is that turning lane that you guys are trying to do that diet, or what you call it, what would become of that? Is there going to be more police there, or what? Will you put a traffic sign or a stop sign? What will you do? Because my end, the swamp entrance and my driveway are together.
So I guess after the presentation, they will come to the map and they will show you and they can help answer your question more specifically, okay? Since that's a specific question. That's a great question. Ronald? Yes, sir.
Yes, I have a statement and a question. When I'm looking at Dutch Broadway is a main road. For example, now you have Diamond Street, Village Avenue, and Freeman Avenue. Those are residential street. Dutch Broadway is twice the size. So why the speed limit on Dutch Broadway is 30 and then on residential it's 30? I want somebody to tell me.
So for example, Ronald lives on Village Avenue, and that is a town roadway, and the speed limit on that roadway is, I think, 30 miles per hour?
Yes.
Compared to Dutch Broadway, where you have more traffic, and it's the same speed limit. So he is concerned about the road speed limit on, for example, certain town roadways like Village Avenue, where there's excessive speeding.
Freeman
As a county police department, Village Avenue, excessive speeding.
Not only that, when you have the cemetery lack a lot of other streets that are open. So therefore we have a few local streets. They become a highway. The people have to come in from those local streets. When you look at the cemetery, it's all the way. So therefore we have a few blocks open. So most of the people, they go to the local street, you know, to make a shortcut. So to come to Elmont Road, going south or north. And the speed limits are the same with the main road. On Elmont Road, Dutch Road 30, and on Residential Street 30. Where's the math? How the math is clicking? I don't get it.
The speed limits on actually all the roadways within this area, whether it's a county road or a local residential road, they are set by the town or the local municipality. In this case, it's the town. We do look at, as engineers, and we set the speed limit on roadways to be appropriate with what people feel comfortable driving. 30 miles an hour, you know, I can certainly understand your concern. I live on a street where it's a small street and the speed limit is 30 miles an hour there as well. It's more of a general residential signing for a roadway like that. Dutch Broadway, you know, it's an arterial, it's a primary roadway through the area, but again, to set that speed limit higher would not be appropriate for that roadway either. It's something that we could approach the town, but in terms of the town, it's not something that it would have to be legislated to change the speeds on local roadways through there. It's something that's beyond my authority, especially on local roadways.
Next question. We have another question here in that area. I want to just want to see if yes, ma'am. I'll get back to you. Yes,
I
ma'am.
have a question. Once you mentioned in the presentation about St. Barnabas and the crossing people that they have there, and normally what happens is you get the green light, you're working, going, and then they stop you because they're letting people cross. So in the thing, you said that there may be an actual signal put there to avoid that. Hopefully that's in line with the other signal that's already at the roadway. Now, once you pass there, now there's a church on Davis and Elmont Road, but there is no road. They actually are stopping their cars and letting people getting out of that church in the middle of the road because there is no side road for them to stand or park. And that is an accident waiting to happen because you've already gone through all the traffic before, and it's a very small road once you get there, and already, like I said, they are stopping in the middle of the street to have passengers, unload passengers in the middle of the street. So is there something that they're going to do? Because if you have a church there, then you need to provide somewhere for them to unload their passengers.
Yeah, I've asked for crossing guards for that intersection, and also I've spoken to the pastor of that church. You know, you have a lot of these houses of worship. For example, the mosque on Stewart Avenue and North Valley Street, right off of Central Avenue. You know, where you have a high number of people attending these services, and I've had the leaders at the mosque, the leaders at that church, Pastor Bishad, I've spoken to them, I've made announcements at that church asking individuals to please respect, the rules of the road. And so to an extent, it takes education, and I will continue to do that. And also ask for there to be more enforcement, obviously, because we don't want cars double parked at that intersection. It's already a very busy intersection with the dentist's office at 7-Eleven. There are certain improvements that are slated for that intersection to make it safer for people crossing. And that is a great point. I'm very glad you add that. And we will continue to educate the people in that congregation to, adhere to
Where the
that.
mosque is, now what happens on that side or on this side, all of a sudden you're driving and they decide they're going to turn into the mosque, they put the signal on, and now you're up on them already because they just decided to turn in there. There seems to be enough space that you can have a turning lane there so that they get out of the way of traffic so traffic can continue to flow. I don't know if that's something
That's a great point. I'm very glad you had that. I did have a community meeting with certain leaders in the community, like Cheryl Lee at the church. And so I would love to invite you to another meeting there because we can continue to address those issues. And I appreciate that. We have other questions. Yes, sir.
Okay, just as a suggestion for Dutch Broadway, you had mentioned that you saw like a father with 3 kids or something crossing midway. I've seen in some other towns that they had like a midway crosswalk where there's a stop sign and it's only during school hours. So cars would stop at this stop sign, and if you have a crossing guard also at that intersection, that can work. Because the thing is, with the kids are let out from the entrance of the school, that crosswalk is way too far for people to cross over. They park their cars so they're not double parked in front of the school as much on the other side, across the street. So if you had a mid-thin crosswalk with a stop sign right in the center for people to abide by, then that would help. That's just a suggestion. And then also, as far as your study, have you compared other towns before you actually changed the lane diet? Like, compared it, similar towns to ours, to see what was the result? And if you had to go further to add any additional traffic devices or speed cameras or red light cameras, have you guys included that in your study?
From a lane diet perspective, the Federal Highway Administration has guidelines for the implementation of the lane diet. It's based upon the overall traffic volumes that the roadway carries. Based on those maximums, you would consider the installation of one with volumes that are below the thresholds for that, which you have an overall 24-hour volume, which we satisfy throughout the quarter. And there's also a peak hour volume, which is where we ran into issues here in the vicinity of the Elmont Road and Dutch Broadway intersection, because our volumes in that section were higher. That's why we ended up not being able to implement the full lane diet for the full length of the roadway. So we do have lane diets in other communities. We have through Belmore and Bridge Road, there's a lane diet. There's other communities that are on non-county roads that have them as well. It's a successful practice, but obviously you have to study it and you have to make sure that you're implementing the appropriate response to what the problems are.
So you guys actually do compare other people with similar peak volumes, other towns?
We're not necessarily comparing it community to community or roadway to roadway. We're looking at the overall volume and how does that handle, what can a 2-lane section of roadway handle? We have general practice standards for what that can handle. Then you factor in the traffic signal timing, the vehicular mix, the number of pedestrians, the number of side street vehicles crossing. When you calculate all that, it gives you an overall capacity of the roadway, and then it tells you what the roadway can handle. Either it can or it can. And that's what, in this particular case, we have the volumes that are appropriate for the roadway that's here. We've grown those volumes to look at that to make sure that the lane diet is working.
Okay, and then one last suggestion as far as with that speed indicator that flashes, maybe. A great reminder would be a child, a silhouette of a child. I've seen it somewhere I was traveling where you actually see a child low below, it reminds people that a child could be crossing. That's the worst thing for anybody, any driver, to hit a child or even an animal. So I don't know if you guys consider something like that. It's a new thing that you can add to the bottom of the pole all right, as a reminder, because sometimes that's all people need. You know, you have the reminder of the speed, but a child, I believe, you know, most people who are traveling, going to work, have children, or have some type of niece, nephew, or something like that.
All right, so the one question nobody asked, what's the next steps and where we're going from here? So it's important that we get comments back to the legislator. He will set some type of time period when he'll get back to us, and then we can finalize the report, and then we need to go into what we call our design phase of work. So we all want this project to move forward in an expeditious manner, but the longer we talk about the project without making decisions, the longer the project does not get done. So I will encourage the legislator to speak to the community to get us what we need to do to take it to the next step. The legislator will fight. I've seen them fight before to get the money for the project. I do not expect that to be an issue, but it is a big project of design because it's lane dividing, it's repaving the road, it's signals, it's replacing old signals, so this is a big project to get done. So it's not going to happen overnight. So the quicker the community comes together with the legislature gets us what we need to do, we can move forward with the project.
Thank you. There was some questions, I just want to make sure that we have all questions answered as of now. Yeah, so I guess if we could turn on the lights and then we could just have some of our experts stand by the boards and you could see exactly what are some of the proposals. I would really appreciate that. So Debbie, if you could just get Principal Dockery or anyone who would control the lights.